Okay, so now we're officially going here, and sorry, I'm doing this in a PDF instead of a PowerPoint, so the controls are a little bit different. But anyhow, welcome to our monthly roundtable meeting for the Ogden Avenue and West Southwest corridor and North Lawndale community area. So for those, I think there may actually be folks who I've not met on the call here, but I'm Brian Hacker with DPD West Region. And it's a pretty friendly bunch here, but let's still go through introductions just to make sure we all know each other. And it looks like, I don't know if everyone's met Vanessa from CDOT. So Vanessa, why don't you go first and introduce yourself to the group, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I don't know everybody in the room, so I look forward to hearing more about who you are. My name is Vanessa Irizarry, and I am a coordinating planner with the Chicago Department of Transportation Project Development Division, Livable Streets section. I'm here to speak about Ogden Avenue corridor improvements, and we'll get a little bit more into that in a moment. Thank you for having me.
And Jim, you want to go next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. This is Jim Harbin. I'm a Deputy Commissioner over at Department of Planning and Development. I actually manage one of our grant programs called the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. But I'm here to talk about our open application period that started last month on December 19th, and to give you guys an update and a chance to answer some questions, particularly before the grant application period closes on February 24th. Happy to be here and a pleasure to be here.
And then Chris Robinson, haven't had the pleasure of meeting before, but welcome. And if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, I'm Chris Robinson. I'm on the community engagement manager for the mayor's office. And my area is North Lawndale, majority west side.
All right, so that covers us on the city side. So Rochelle, I'm just going to go in the order that I see y'all on the screen here.
Hi, everybody. Rochelle Jackson. I am with the Juvenile Protective Association. I work with the North Lawndale Community Coordinating Council as the chairperson of Transportation and Infrastructure Committee.
And Matt.
Hi, Matt Harvey for New Covenant CDC, Special Project Coordinator / Corridor Manager on Ogden, between Ogden and Kedzie and Ogden and Pulaski. That's mostly where I do, my outreach and community engagement at.
Thanks, Matt. Deborah?
Excuse me, good afternoon. I'm Deborah Wesley. I'm with Sinai Chicago, president of Sinai Community Institute, and a member of the executive committee for NLCCC. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Blanche.
Blanche Killingsworth, the North Lawndale Historical and Cultural Society of North Lawndale, co-founder and president.
Thank you. Caroline.
Hi, good afternoon. Caroline Rendon with LISC Chicago. I get to work with the corridor managers, Matt and Jesse, quite often. I am going to have to hop off a little bit early today, but I'm happy to be here.
Sounds good. Thanks. And of course, last but not least, April.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm April. I work with NLCCC as the engagement coordinator. I'm also a resident here and a landlord. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And again, welcome. So yeah, I think you get the idea here of what we're going to be covering in the meeting. So Vanessa will be up first to talk about the Ogden Avenue corridor, and then we'll have Jim to talk about latest grant opportunities from DPD. I'm just going to touch on a couple of community updates, and then I'll open it up if anybody else has any announcements or anything else that they'd like to raise or make questions or comments on. We'll save some time for that at the end. So yeah, Vanessa, just give me the cues on your slides here for when you'd like me to advance, okay? And I'll hand it off to you.
Sure, thank you. So while Brian gets on the slides, since we're a small group, I think it's okay to be a little bit more informal. I do have about 10 slides just to go through the project boundaries, the scope, etc., so we can have a discussion. You should have received, or some of you might have already received, an e-announcement for the project, which had links for the fact sheets, additional information. If you did not receive that, let me know. We just sent those out. I believe it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. I forget. Brian, if you can put up the first slide, the project team. We're not seeing it. At least I'm not seeing it from my end.
No, the slides are not moving, Brian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why I was a little quiet waiting. But
Sorry about that. No,
that's okay.
let me see. Let me stop the share and then reshare again.
Well, it's nice to see everyone's faces bigger. I prefer this. So if we want, we can, Brian, if we have some time, we'll go through the 10 slides and then cut off the presentation so we can all see each other. I think that would be nice.
Is this better? Can you see the project team now?
I can see it now. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, just give me the cues, Vanessa, when you want me to advance.
Sure. So the project, this is, I just want to give kind of sort of a kickoff with the roundtable on the Ogden Avenue Corridor Improvements Project. It's part of the Invest Southwest North Lawndale initiative. CDOT is leading this effort, specifically the livable streets section, which I'm part of. And a team of consultants has been hired by the city, being led by Civil Tech Engineering through the city's procurement process. So people that you will hear from throughout this project are myself, the project manager, under Luca Benak, which some of you know, our project director for Livable Streets, and Cody Machen, which is another PM that's project engineer on this effort. It's a big project, so we have a lot of people having eyes and ears on it. Again, as I mentioned, Civil Tech Engineering is a transportation engineering firm, is the lead. We're working with Home and Grown for community engagement and some landscape design work within your community. We're working with GAL to help us get a better understanding of how the corridor and the open spaces along it are being used and help us on kind of the urban design development. We're working with a historic preservation firm where we know historic resources. That is part of the work that we have to conduct through a collaboration with IDOT, because Ogden is an IDOT route. We're working with Lamar Johnson Collaborative in some of the community engagement and urban design pieces. And I won't go through all of the names, but you can see it on the screen. We have several technical consultants that are working through topo survey, electrical, traffic engineering, geotechnical work that needs to be completed. Next slide. So as I mentioned,
it's advancing now. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
All right, just want to.
We're on slide 3. Thank you so much, Brian. So the project supports the Invest Southwest initiative to reactivate neighborhood cores that have historically served as a focal point for pedestrian activity and community activities, such as shopping, services, transportation, public spaces, and that they do provide quality of life amenities for residents. It's part of Chicago Works, Mayor Lightfoot's 5-year capital program that will invest in communities through infrastructure. Now, streetscapes, some of you might have encountered some of the work that we do throughout the city, consists of infrastructure improvements, pet improvements, and also placemaking improvements, which provide a project that creates a unified, safe, and walkable street. It includes public right-of-way improvements, from building phase to building phase. This will include public outreach work, placemaking and urban design strategies. We're going to go through concept design and engineering. We're going to go through detailed design and engineering. And eventually, we will get to construction of the corridor. The Invest Southwest boundary is actually Pulaski to Kedzie, but the streetscape project boundary goes all the way to Western. So it is from Pulaski to Western. So we go east of Douglas Park. Next slide.
And Vanessa, can that encompasses, like, is that all the state portion of it in this area?
Well, Ogden is a state route. So we'll show, you'll have a slide with the project boundaries. All of it is state jurisdiction with the exception of the service drives. So it includes all of the right of way from Pulaski to Western on Ogden and up to the alleys. So it includes side streets as well to the alley. Okay, so here we are. So what is our scope of work? There's 3 wards that encompass the project boundary. So it's a big area. We are going to be doing roadway geometry and intersection improvements, full width resurfacing, drainage improvements. We have to do all of those infrastructure improvements that need to happen when you're doing a construction project on a road. New sidewalk, curb, and gutter, pedestrian safety improvements, as I mentioned earlier. We're going to improve ADA ramps and crosswalks. We're going to do curb extensions where possible. So either missing a space there, investigate the need for bike facilities, potentially repurposing the service drives, street lighting, traffic signal upgrades. We're going to redo pavement markings and signage. We're going to be looking at paver parkways, against side street improvements to the alleys, site furniture, seating areas, develop alongside the community identifiers, including those on light poles and potential neighborhood gateways, and street trees and landscaping. So it encompasses everything to improve the corridor for all roadway users. Next slide. Here's a question, Brian, that you were posing. So again, Ogden, Pulaski to Western. Ogden Avenue, the main line, is an IDOT route. So we will be working in collaboration with the Illinois Department of Transportation on working throughout this project. The project has to follow federal aid highway procedures, which is one of them is phase 1 engineering, which is where we're at. We're in phase 1 due to current and anticipating funding for construction. Now the work will include the service drives. The service drives are under CDOT jurisdiction. So we will be coordinating with IDOT and the community on what the potential for the service drives are. The work will include community visioning, design development, preliminary engineering, and environmental clearances from IDOT. Other things to consider is that Ogden Avenue, the corridor itself bisects Douglas Park, which is listed on the National Register of Historic Places as part of the Chicago's Boulevard system. There's several buildings and resources within the corridor that might have potential historical significance. So we will be going through, I just heard a feedback. Is there somebody trying to speak?
No, sorry, that was my fault.
Oh, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure that if somebody wanted to speak, I could pause. So those are things that we're going to have to comply with as we go through the project, all the environmental and historical clearances. Next slide. Back one. So we see this as an opportunity to reimagine Ogden Avenue as a multimodal transportation corridor, as a hub for community activity, and as a catalyst for economic development in North Lawndale. Next slide. The overarching goals, and of course, we'll be working through detailed goals, objectives with the community, are to improve safety for all users of this corridor, repurpose and activate public spaces, and transform the corridor into one that reflects the unique identity of North Lawndale. Next slide. So this is the overarching general project schedule. And things will shift as we go through the IDOT coordination process, because there's a lot of review time and a lot of discussion with IDOT. So things might get shifted and might happen a little quicker. We're currently in the existing conditions review and community visioning part of the project. We kicked off the project internally at the end of 2022, and that just meant sort of starting discussions with our consultant, starting to gather stakeholder lists, starting to talk to IDOT about the project and what the steps are. Now we're moving into that community engagement phase, reaching out to people. We send out the e-announcement, let people know that this is happening, to please get involved and join us in this effort. We'll be discussing upcoming meetings and next steps at a later slide, and ask you, have you ask any questions that you might have. But in general, as you can see here, we are putting together a community advisory group of community organizations in the neighborhood, to sort of serve as a touch point for feedback and ideas and goals of what should happen in the corridor. That first meeting, it's going to happen in February. That's going to be followed by a public meeting that's going to be open to everyone in the community. Late March, mid to late March, we're going to have a series of community workshops where we will meet with different organizations, youth engagement, and we'll find out more as we speak to the community about what the needs are for those sort of theme-based community workshops. We've talked about potentially an open space one, different sort of key themes that people might want to discuss. We're also going to have one-on-one stakeholder meetings, so everybody will be involved at different levels. Again, we have a second community advisory group meeting in 2024, but that might be earlier. The schedule is really dependent on the IDOT process. Next slide. Next steps. We are going to continue our IDOT coordination. We're coming up to our third meeting with IDOT in the upcoming weeks to discuss the project. February, our community advisory group meeting number 1, as mentioned earlier. Public meeting late March with a community survey that will go out, probably will go live when we have the meeting. So people have the option of providing feedback, ongoing community workshops, ongoing stakeholder meetings. We ask, of course, that you help us promote the project materials, the meeting information and the survey information. We did send out yesterday or the day before yesterday the project fact sheet that you see on the right side. You might be getting emails from an Improve Ogden email address. That's our team sending out the information. There is an address for our website, improveogdenavenue.org. We'll be putting updates at that link. The e-announcement, I know it's not a very user-friendly e-announcement, but if you did not get that email, you can either let us know, or you can actually type that in and you will get to the e-announcement, which will link you to all of the meeting information, all of the information on the project, the fact sheet, etc. So that fact sheet can be found through the link of the e-announcement. And that is all I have for you today. It's just kind of a kickoff. So you can ask any questions, any comments. I'll be happy to bring it to our team. And we look forward to working with everybody on this project. It's a very exciting project, and there's a lot of potential for improvement of Ogden Avenue. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Vanessa. This is really exciting to see it moving ahead. I have questions, but I know that other folks here have questions, so I'll hold off. And Rochelle, yeah, your hand raised.
Could, Brian, do you mind just shutting down the presentation? We can just talk to each other. That'd be nice.
So Vanessa, the first meeting with the continuation of IDOT coordination, is that just for IDOT and the designers, or our community
and some
stakeholders invited to that?
the IDOT meetings?
Mm-hmm.
So the IDOT meetings that we have are with CDOT and sometimes the consultant, depending on different consultants. These are like meetings about the application process for historical review and environmental review. Like they're just technical meetings are what is the next step with IDOT to sort of move it forward. IDOT will be part and has been invited to participate in the community advisory group meetings. So we hope that they can attend those meetings, because then that's where they provide an opportunity for discussion between community members, community organizations, and IDOT, and we can all speak at the same time. I don't think community members who want to be part of the IDOT meetings that we're just talking about, like what's the next form we have to submit, because there's a lot of forms.
So,
but no,
as far as the community advisory committee, do we get to choose who they are?
We went.
Do you choose them? Because I want to make sure that the people that are, especially the people that work with NLCCC and my transportation committee, we are a part of that. I also would like for a group that has a lot of history for Route 66 to be a part of that as well.
We identified community organizations that are active in the area and worked with the alderman's office to make sure we weren't missing anybody. We work with DPD to make sure, because I work through a roundtable, that we were including all of the organizations. You should have received, I know your name because I remember it and we met before. NLCCC is involved, is part of that list. I know New Covenant CDC was also part of that list. If you didn't get it yet, that invitation for the community advisory group meeting is going out today. If you are an organization that did not get an invitation to the community advisory group, please let us know, because we can add you to the community advisory group. It doesn't mean that we meant to exclude you. It just meant that you somehow weren't identified on the list. Now, the goal of the community advisory group is to be a touch point where we are having a smaller group of people give us feedback, because we can really sort of get into a lot more details than we can in a public meeting. So we do ask community organizations to limit it to like 1 or 2 people per organization so we can have an efficient discussion. And then that doesn't mean that if somebody is for an organization and they're interested in, and I'm going to say open space again, just because it's the only thing that comes to my mind, we can put together a community workshop and a group that's talking about that and how we can sort of move that forward into the plan. And we'll have those separate. We can have one-on-one stakeholder meetings. So if there's a resident that's not part of a group, that's okay, because there'll be a public meetings and they can have meetings with us, right? We have businesses that we have to work on. Those businesses, we might have like a group of businesses that we have a meeting with, right, to listen to sort of what their needs are and sort of what their concerns are on the corridor. We might have cyclists. They might want to talk to us separately. So we have not, it is a step-by-step process. So we have to talk to the community, the community advisory group as representative organizations, to get a sense of, first, what those community workshops should be, who else should be involved, what are those conversations that need to happen. Anyway, so step by step, because we haven't identified everybody. And if there's a resident that didn't get an email, like an e-announcement, because that went to everyone we had, please let us know. We'll add them to the list. And there's links on all of those documents that we sent out in the last few days for people to sign up. Okay. Does
Okay,
that help, Rochelle?
it does. My only pushback is I'm very concerned about people being a part of the group that don't live in our community. And, you know, sometimes they have a lot of say so, and it's not what we want, but what they want to do for us. And so we're trying to avoid that, you know, moving forward, because we've gotten a lot of that. And so we want to change that and make it, you know, the people who live here, who were born and raised here, how we see that moving forward, and not somebody that lives on the other side of town or in a different state to give us their vision. I mean, their vision is fine, but if it doesn't fit what we need, as opposed to what they want, that's not, you know, unacceptable is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's very, and Ms. Jackson, that is a very valid point. Ogden is an interesting corridor because it is used by people to get from point A to point B, but that's why we're reimagining the corridor for all roadway users, right? Because you have people going from point A to point B, but you also have people crossing from one side of the street to the other, and their experience and needs are very different than actually people that might be a business owner that needs people to get to their store, which is on a local road. So it is a very complex project, and we want all the voices to be there. But yes, we are reimagining Ogden as a resource and a place that will be a corridor that is a spine of identity for North Lawndale, right? So everything goes on at the same time. We can't negate the need for Ogden to be a connector, right? But we can do that in a different way. Hopefully.
And I get that, you know, there are going to be people who don't live in North Lawndale that are working on the design and all those other things. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm just talking about people that just show up and say, do this or change that, you know. And it kind of, my concern is not wanting to take away all the historical value of Ogden Avenue and what Route 66 brings to the community, because we're wanting to reimagine how Route 66 coincides with the rest of Route 66 in the state of Illinois, to, you know, make the wayfinding signs and all the history match what other cities in Illinois is doing for Route 66, to bring awareness to our side of town for Route 66, where it can be celebrated like it is across the United States. That's what I'm talking about.
And to your point, Rochelle, and thank you for bringing that up. And as a proud member of resident of North Lawndale, born and raised in North Lawndale, I agree with that. And, you know, there's some just iconic symbols and buildings along Route 66 that, you know, the community values, like the Castle Car Wash, like WACA, West Side Association for Community Action, on Central Park in Ogden. You know, how looking at these buildings may not mean much to those from the outside, but they mean a lot to us.
Yep. And we have identified those on our list, like the car wash. Those are on our list of historic resources. So we have to take a look at that. And I will share this. Somebody in our project team yesterday was talking about, because we're hearing a lot about Route 66 and the historic piece of it. And then how do you bring this street to sort of be more modernized to meet all roadway users, unlike sort of historically what it was, right? You sort of have pre-highway sort of design where you have lots of lanes coming through. And it's like, what does that mean? Those are things that we're going to have to discuss, have these conversations about. How do you meet those two things together? How do we make it better for the community? How do we make it better for all roadway users, while also bringing in the historical piece? And how do you I guess establish that for North Lawndale?
Right.
Blanche has the hat on for a while.
Yeah, I totally agree with. I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, like, I'm glad, James, that you spoke up. I was going to tee you up because of the role that Lawndale Christian plays on the corridor, but then also too, you've got Sinai on the other end of it. And I wanted to just identify too that the institutional users that are on the corridor here are also very actively involved in development corridor. Like Lawndale Christian, James, your organization has done an amazing job of preserving historic buildings along the renovating and restoring historic buildings there. And I know that your work is not over in terms of that. And then Sinai in the east is working on Ogden Commons. So there's a lot of overlap in the stakeholders down the corridor and the ones who are going to be instrumental in its future development here too. So Blanche, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted
not a problem at all, Brian. I was just echoing what Rochelle was saying. As the Historical Society, that's one of our main objectives in North Lawndale. And that's to research, educate, and archive the history of North Lawndale. And of course, there are at least, I want to say about 6 buildings on Ogden Avenue that is historical buildings, and hopefully they will get rehab as we doing the revitalization of Route 66, Ogden Avenue. And I think what Rochelle, and I'm gonna put my comment on this, when it comes to that advisory committee, I think that's what Rochelle was saying. It's very important that maybe, I know LCDC is on Ogden Avenue, I know Sinai is on Ogden Avenue, but what's in between, as far as, when I say in between, how many smaller organizations that should be on that advisory committee, so you won't have, as Rochelle said, people from the outside coming to the inside saying what you need and not what you want. So.
Sorry, I just dropped my notebook. So
I'm sorry, I've been working on Ogden Avenue with Rochelle. We did tours of Ogden Avenue. We explained Ogden Avenue, Route 66. That avenue, that route is one of the biggest economic hand that's sitting in North Lawndale that's not being developed, has not been developed. I understand the new development, but you cannot ignore the past development of Ogden Avenue, what it really needs to, because we need arms coming off of Ogden Avenue to build economic development for the entire community. And that's the way I feel about it. But yes, a lot of the meetings that you go to, they're not people that live in North Lawndale. So I think we have to be very cautious that we don't not only have some organization from Lawndale, but you don't lock in, okay, this organization, because they got a name. If you know what I mean.
I'm going to put the email address for the project on the chat. If you have any organizations that you just want to sort of highlight to us that you want to make sure are included, we can have the team look at the list, make sure they're included. And if they're not, then we can add them, have conversations, who should we talk to, etc. So I'll put the email address here. You can email me directly, but I prefer to the. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but on the table, are we, I got on a little late. Are we also talking about the service drives and the removal of the service drives?
We don't know what's going to happen with the service drives yet, right? Because we have to talk to the community, but the service drives are an opportunity to, we talked about potentially repurposing the service drive. What does that mean in detail, and where and how? Those are things we have to discuss with the community. We, of course, will have, like we're going through the existing conditions information, right? We'll have a traffic analysis done, and we'll do parking analysis, and we'll be talking about all of that and present it. And then there's also what the community wants. So yes, repurposing of the service drive, it is a huge opportunity on Ogden. What specifically is going to happen is TBD.
You have an organization that I'll highlight as Principals Barbers, and he's a barber shop, and small business, doing a great thing. But what happens with the service drives being there, if you pass the barber shop, if there's signage and you pass it, there's no real turning around to go back. And the service drives, I guess what I'm getting at, it prevents, businesses from wanting to come here because it's not easily accessible. And we run into that at the health center as well. So we're just trying to think through that as well. So
Yeah, James, this is definitely the opportunity. This process is definitely the opportunity to, put on the table all the things we've been talking about for like the last couple of years now. But I do want to make sure that I'm respecting the folks' time. We got Jim here. I want to make sure we have time reserved for him to talk as well. So as I respect and appreciate everyone's comments that they're making here, but I think for right now we should avoid getting into the weeds of like design and traffic circulation and things like that. But the good thing is that we've got several months with multiple touch points to be able to talk about that in public meetings and the advisory group meetings. And, I know that, Vanessa does an exceptional job over at CDOT of, engaging her and the consultant team as well as engaging with the community. And, we're going to make sure that, no stone is left unturned and that this is a very, community-oriented engagement process. So, we've been doing this with you all for, years now. We know who the, representatives are that should be in the room on a project like this, and certainly will not be leaving, them out of this process.
Thank you, Brian. I just want to answer some of the messages. I think I'm getting direct messages from people possibly. So Ms. Blanche Killingsworth wants a copy of the PowerPoint. I believe that will go out with the roundtable meeting minutes. So that will be taken care of. It will be sent to everyone in the roundtable. And to please add, sorry, I have a sneeze, to please add the North Lawndale Historical and Cultural Society in the advisory group. I went through the list quickly and they are on the list. You're on the list already, so you should have received that invitation. If not yet, today, because I asked them to send them out before this meeting, but it could be that it'll be later today. So yes. And that was it. Those are the only two questions I got. I put the project email on the chat. Feel free to email there because I have the team working through it. Any questions will get back to me and the team here. And my email address at the city is my first and last name with a dot in between at cityofchicago.org. You're welcome to email me, but it's better so you go improve ogdenavenue.org because they'll be able to answer questions on all sorts of topics rather than it being just sent to me directly for me to redistribute. They can do that in advance. Thank you for your time, Brian. I know I took longer than we expected. Thank you, everybody, for having this conversation. We look forward to this.
Thank you.
Working
It
with
was
Thank you,
very
Vanessa.
informative. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, do you need me for anything else?
Nope, you're all good. You're free to go. So yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk to the group. I know that folks are super excited about this. I'm excited about this. I've been, waiting for this to, get going for a while now. So yeah, we're all looking forward to being a part of it. And here, Jim, I'm going to pull the presentation back up on the screen.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Vanessa, good to see you again.
Nice to see you. Nice to see everyone. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, you too. Yeah, so Jim, I'm going to pull the slides back up on the screen and then you can just.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to introduce myself again for those who joined a little late. I'm Jim Harbin. I'm a Deputy Commissioner here at the Department of Planning and Development. I'm also the manager of the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund grant program. So I'm going to just walk you guys through a slide that kind of highlights what that program is. And I'm also here that if you guys need, I can also answer some questions regarding the Chicago Recovery Grant Program as well. But what we want to do today is to signal, particularly to this group, that we are in an open application period right now. And what we are in an open application period for is a grant program that could help support some of the small businesses that Mr. Brooks talked about a little earlier with his question. I think he said Principal Barber. I really need to understand the name of that business. Is it Principal Barber?
Yes, it is. Principal Barbers.
Yeah, these are grant programs that are aimed specifically at local businesses that are in Lawndale. And when I say that, you know, the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund grant program is literally a grant program that's aimed at the south and west sides of Chicago. The Chicago Recovery Grant Program is a little bit more broader, but I'm here to kind of let you know about these programs that are hyper focused on our communities. So in 2022, we literally invested and committed almost $11 million to small businesses. We announced 35 of those as finalists, and you can kind of see the variety and array of the small businesses that we were selecting. 95% of those businesses were businesses with people of color. 98% of them were hyper local. In other words, they were in the communities that I just alluded to. Go ahead, Brian. Can you move the slide, Brian?
Oh, sorry. I thought you. And Jim, go ahead and take. If you go, you can have the rest of the meeting. You know, my update item can be cut, so take as much time as you need. All right.
Okay. So part of what we like to do is to do that listening that was alluded to by Ms. Jackson, and really anticipate the applications that come in, literally targeting things that the community has signaled that they would like to see. So when you look at the selection process, for instance, of last year, you can see from accommodations and food and retail, arts and entertainment and recreation, that's the lion's share of our selection process. We also did some real estate rental and the healthcare and social assistance, but our aim is really those top two programmings, retail and accommodations and food services. We really like it when a restaurant comes up and shows up on our applications, particularly in an area where you can actually sit down in a nice, well-designed place to eat. You know, you guys just had one of our recipients, Soul Food Lounge, be a clear example of how you might use the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund in order to do that type of programming. And we certainly are looking forward to and anticipating having more. Go ahead, Brian. So just at a glance, and this is again an overview, I've got a deck that can walk folks through how you do that. And if you guys wanted me to spend some time to do that, I certainly can circle back. I've got a deck ready to go to do that. But if you look, from 2022, I'm sorry, from 2021 all the way up to September of last year, we actually got 19 projects over the finish line. And, one of the things that I couldn't be more proud of is that we are, learning how to lean into the challenges that many of our entrepreneurs and small businesses face in terms of connecting to these resources and helping them understand how to get their projects over the finish line. That represented not only over $6 million of investments in our communities, but look at that other number. It took us $2.4 million of Neighborhood Opportunity Fund resources to leverage an additional $6.6 million into our communities. That's what this grant program is all about, the leveraging of our commitment to these projects in order to have that larger investment take place. I've already signaled that we approved 35 projects last year. When we look ahead to where we're going now, from October of last year to today, we've actually completed 9 more projects. These were in some cases much larger. And again, with $1.5 million of investment, we've attracted up to $14.2 million of total project costs into our communities. We could do that all day long. That's what we're trying to make sure we do with this particular program. 6 more projects have been approved since that time. One that was actually committed to last year. And, there's a process that we take small businesses through once they're selected as finalists. to help them understand the timing and the scheduling and the commitment that they need to make in order to get to the finish line. So these numbers help us understand where we're doing that well and where we still need to have some more effort put into our program. We're targeting roughly about $9 million of commitment this year. And we are really leaning into an initiative that we've added to the program where we literally can attach a construction manager to the project at no cost or very little cost to that applicant. What we found is that in many cases, people who have been connecting to these resources have not done the type of construction and the type of renovation projects that they signal in their application. And, you know, I think early on, we didn't necessarily understand that. We made an assumption early on back in 2017 that applications that came in that signaled, you know, that they were ready to go, you know, those individuals had experience in doing the type of renovations and construction that they signaled in their application. We now better understand that there's support needed. So we not only now provide construction management support, we also provide architectural and design services in order to help folks walk through and articulate their vision through their project. And we even have lending coaches who will sit down with our applicants, with our finalists, and help them get over the finish line in terms of financing their portion of the project. So I'm not sure if that's the last slide, Brian. So this is an opportunity, and this is the last slide here. We just conducted this orientation over at QCDC with Matthew and Adrian, your colleagues, Rhonda McFarland. And we literally used her space to bring in our latest round of finalists in order to help them level set and understand what it is they're about to embark on, not only on their project, but their engagement with the resources that are coming from the city of Chicago. So I'm going to stop right there. You know, I'm really interested, particularly since we have a small group today, that if you guys have any questions about these grant programs, and both CRP and NOF has been around for a while, you know, I can certainly circle back if you guys need me to kind of walk you through kind of what the programs are in more detail. But I'm assuming that this crowd is pretty seasoned, and just listening to you guys today, you guys appear to me to be pretty seasoned. So if we could take the time for you guys to just, you know, pick my brain, get some specific questions asked, I'm more than happy to do so. So if that's okay with you, Brian, I'll just open it up for questions.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Jim, when is the deadline again for the neighborhood fund?
The deadline is Friday, February 24th of next month. Now, I say that, Matthew, and I want to caveat that. We're going to do 2 more rounds this year. And what I really have learned by managing this program, this is about my 2nd year managing it now. I don't want to encourage any small business or entrepreneur to rush us an application.
Okay. Right.
Are you hearing what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The details matter. Your articulation of how ready you are matters, not just getting in the application. So the reason why we used to do 2 rounds a year, we think 3 rounds a year now makes sense, because we want to catch people when you're ready. So, and forgive me for picking on folks. So when Adrian has a project that's ready, we want to catch her right now. And for Chris to has a project that's cooking, he's baking it, we want to give him 2 more opportunities in the same year to submit his application. Okay.
Okay.
Any more questions?
As Jim, I just think this is wonderful. Thank you for sharing. It's exciting.
You know, and it's interesting you would say it that way, but, you know, just particularly after listening to Vanessa. So, you know, those resources that are really going to reimagine that corridor, that historic corridor, if there was ever an opportunity for a business, particularly a local business, to be thinking about being on that corridor, the timing couldn't be better right now to tap into these resources or understand how to do so. So part of the reason why we bring these to the roundtable is to make sure that a group like this has this information, understands this type of timing, and signals to the rest of the community, particularly the small business community, that if they were ever thinking about that move or that renovation project, for instance, like Principal Barber, yep, and by the way, we're more than happy to sit down with any one of them. If they need to get more detail, if they need to kind of better understand kind of what that is, we are more than happy to sit down with them and walk them through that.
Adrian Hendricks?
I'm sorry?
Just like Adrian has a hand raised.
Yeah, Adrian, go ahead.
Hi. Let me see if I can take off my camera. I'm having problems with that. Hi, I'm with West Humble Park Development.
Did she freeze?
We lost you.
I think we lost you a little bit.
Oh, there you are. You're back.
Yeah, we lost you a little bit, Adrian.
Oh, yeah, this internet. I hope you can hear me, but I'll try to talk fast
You can.
before the internet goes out. I was saying Rochelle had a valid point. When we had our community meeting, there were people who raised the same concern for Chicago Avenue. We have a lot of historical, people don't want to go anywhere. And so they came back, and we are going to be the ones that design the streetscape. As long as the city approve it, we're going to design what we would like to see along there with their approval. So don't be afraid to keep that Route 66, but just upgrade it like a paint, just like you paint your house and upgrade it, just upgrade it, make everything new, but don't be afraid to go after this. This is a project, what, $20 million? We'll be there next time.
Yeah, and Adrian, to your point, this is a once in a generation opportunity here. I won't see this again on these corridors.
We probably won't, all of us.
Okay, so this is the moment. So
I just want to jump in there. I'm going to sit at a lot of the round tables because we can learn from each other.
You certainly can.
Yeah.
And Adrian, I'm not afraid. I've been
No, I know you're not afraid.
I've been talking about this since the inception of NL.
I know.
We've been talking about Ogden, and this is the first opportunity to hear about the city finally wanting to do something. I mean, I know the plans have already been there.
Mm-hmm.
I just never heard the conversations because every time I would mention it, people would say, oh, let's wait, it's coming.
Right.
So
Yeah,
now that it's
people are afraid because it's never happened before.
right.
And so now that it's happening, folks came to the meeting like, we actually have a say-so. And we was like, yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to jump in. Since we have 2 minutes left, I wanted to hit on something else here just really quick. And thank you for the comments, Adrian and Rochelle and everyone. I also wanted to mention too, so Jim, you might mention Soul Food Lounge, but I don't know if you also mentioned Soleil opening which has opened on Roosevelt just recently, is another NOF awardee. And that's another big one to mention because, it's renowned chef from the community. You're moving back there, and I think that's like their main location now because they had that Wicker Park location. I got to get out and go grab dinner over there. It's definitely on my list of things to do when I get a chance. But that's really exciting. And I also
and Brian, if I could just jump in there for a second, you are absolutely correct. It is one of the most exciting projects in our inventory right now, and she still has some work to do to kind of get to that point. But we are going to celebrate that restaurant over there on Roosevelt. We're going to celebrate that. Yeah. That is a big freaking deal, if I can say that on this call.
Put that on the front page of the marketing.
Yeah, we're not going to ignore that.
All right, but another good success story is that I don't know if folks got the news through the grapevine or maybe even tuned in, but the Alton Timeline Framework Plan was adopted at Plan Commission last week on Thursday. So it's been a very long process of getting it across the finish line, but we did. It was very well received at Plan Commission. And I also wanted to mention too, that this is after about a month and a half of it being out for public comment and review. We made sure that there was a healthy amount of time. I just wanted to show this slide really quick to say that we got, feedback. It wasn't a huge outpouring of feedback, but all of the emails that I received made some very poignant and relevant comments, and I made changes to the plan based on the feedback that we got. So I just wanted to show some of the quotes that are up here and just make sure that everyone's aware that it got adopted and really quickly. We're now going to start doing more research into the legal aspects of like the property ownership, the titles, of the properties that we might acquire, because if the city is going to acquire land and build a public improvement here, we need to know what we're purchasing. We need to know what's even available for us to purchase from the freight railroad as well. So that's the next step for us to enter into, do our homework on the property ownership, and there's going to be some surveys done. So then we can enter into negotiations with CSX, because that's a huge milestone to clear. And then once we do that, we'll have the opportunity to pursue a phase 1 design study, like what's being done for Ogden right now. And locate funding to do that. So I just wanted to keep everyone up to date and let you know where the project currently stands. But that was another good, success story for North Lawndale last week at Plan Commission.
Good.
And
hey, Brian, can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
I haven't been in those all-time meetings because of other priorities, but does that include shoring up those viaducts that they sit on top of?
That's another thing that we'll be looking into in this next stage, Rochelle, is the quality of the infrastructure. Fortunately, it has to be maintained to like a certain level of integrity, because it's a quote unquote active rail line. Whether or not it's actually being used is,
Right.
but it's categorized as like an active rail line, because they do still, what I heard is they use it for storage. So it has to maintain a certain level of like integrity with the infrastructure.
Mhm.
So, I mean, they may not look good, but my take is that like, for what we're talking about using it as for like recreation, it'll be more than sufficient. Of course, there's always going to be some investment that would be needed, but that isn't one of the next things that we're looking into, is the integrity of the structure for what we're proposing. But like, it's compared to trains going over it, obviously people biking and walking on it is much less intense.
Yeah, that was my concern, underneath the viaducts.
Yeah, and that's something that would get looked at too, and as we get into a more intense design and engineering process for it, is we're not just going to look at like the elevated rail part of it, it's the surrounding infrastructure as well. So that's why I see that as been a part of the conversation like all along.
All right, thanks.
And then lastly too, I need to gloss over this, but we are in the process of scheduling a ceremonial groundbreaking for the Roosevelt Costner industrial development. So this is not going to include quite yet the buildings that are on Roosevelt Road, which are for Rodney's location there for New Covenant, and then the Blackman United facility there, but Related Midwest, which is leading the construction of the industrial buildings here to the north and south of the tracks, will be pulling permits soon. So more to come on that. We'll make sure it goes out to all of our North Lawndale folks for when that groundbreaking is, but probably March, February, maybe even February. So more exciting news. And we've gone over time. I know folks had to go. So unless anyone else has any further questions or comments. So it's been good to touch base with you all, and we'll probably be back in another couple months. They have some more good news like we had today to share, and Rochelle, we'll look forward to seeing you in those advisory group meetings for Ogden.
I'm going to show up.
It was the first thing I said when Vanessa reached out to me and said it was ready to move ahead. I was like, you better include Rochelle Jackson. But to Vanessa's credit, she already knew.
Thank you. All right, you guys, nice seeing everybody.
Nice seeing you.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too.
All right.